We've thrown out some like the IDEA and the ADA, and maybe they don't even know what that is. Can you kind of describe those things? I know most of our parents do, but we often have people watching our show going, What are all these things they're talking about? I don't even understand them." So
just very broadly, the ADA is the Americans with Disability Act, and it was passed in 1990 and then amended in 2008. And essentially, it just prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities in a public sphere. Mm-hmm. So your public universities, vocational schools, community colleges of that sort cannot discriminate based on your disability. Mm-hmm. So, through case law, and obviously, the different sections within the ADA. So Title II is the public services aspect, and Title III is the public accommodations and services operated by like private entities. So that's why it includes private universities. That is where you're really kind of getting to the meat and potatoes of how they cannot discriminate. So, they cannot discriminate on your disability for admission. They can't not allow you to take a certain class, things like that. Mm-hmm. So that is where like the ADA really comes in, is the driving force behind accommodations on the SATs, accommodations for you in a college campus setting. Which is different than the IDEA, which is specifically for ages 3 to 22. And the 22, 18 to 22, a lot of schools will have vocational programs. So the district is still responsible for the child, and it may be until 22. So that's where there maybe some overlap. But it just depends, I guess, what entity you're dealing with. If you're dealing with the school district, and they're still responsible, they're still responsible. Otherwise, the ADA takes over.
Right. And these are all national laws. They're not state specific, so every state has to follow them. But the education laws in your state, of course, govern other things that that are also has more to do with the funding of those monies than the actual law itself.
Yeah, typically, your state education code typically is going to be talking about the funding, but generally those education laws mirror the federal laws, and in some cases they can expand and provide additional. So, for instance, in California, our California education code provides clarifications on things that the federal law might be a little bit more vague, specifically regarding timelines. So where the federal IDEA talks about the timeline to assess students is within a reasonable time. In California, we have very strict timelines on when a school has to respond to a request for assessment within 15 days. You have 30 days to hold an IEP, that sort of thing. So, and then, just like the ADA Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act and the IDEA are all funding statutes. So essentially what that means is public institutions or places of public within the public sphere, if they are receiving federal funds, which almost everything in the federal sphere is, that it is you're receiving those funds in exchange for the promise that you're going to follow these laws, which is why many private institutions do not have to follow these laws to the same extent because they are not receiving that funding.
Yeah.
But if they do allow for federal assistance, so the FAFSA, a lot of students get federal aid, and the private institution accepts that, then they cannot discriminate either. So that's important. Because most of the time we think, the IDEA doesn't apply to private schools K through 12. Oh, okay, but they're not receiving federal money. Obviously, if you're taking the federal money, you gotta do what they say. So where the ADA comes in.